Right, anti-coup protests are planned in Khartoum as the country marks the third anniversary of the mass protest that unseated former President Omar Al-Bashir. Let's discuss how the country has so far fared. Kholood Khair, managing partner at Inside Strategy Partners, joins us from Khartoum for an update on this. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. This call for marches is perhaps the latest of many to pressure the generals whose takeover has triggered nearly daily protests demanding civilian rule. What is the latest information on the ground as you keep a close eye on what's happening?
Well, I think what people are responding to is the fact that, the generals have been saying, one level of rhetoric which suggests that they are willing to hand power over, that they're willing to work with some civilian stakeholders in order to bring about what they see as a restart to the transitional period or a resumption of the transitional period. But at the same time, the repressions haven't stopped. The arbitrary arrests, detentions and disappearances haven't stopped. Neither have the human rights abuses. And so people want to send a clear message to the generals that the original asks and demands of the revolution are still the ones that are being pursued, which is full civilian rule, as well as accountability for economic and transitional justice issues. And so today's protest is really to just sort of draw a line under the past few months of haranguing and back and forth, and to reiterate the core message of the revolution and to really show not just stakeholders in the country and in the region, but around the world, that the revolution hasn't finished yet.
Now, the timing of these protests, they come in the third anniversary of the beginning of a sit-in outside the military's headquarters that accelerated the removal of Omar Al-Bashir. Let's talk about that significance.
Yes, that was certainly a very significant day because I think there was a shift. There was a very tangible shift that actually Omar Al-Bashir could be unseated. You have to remember that for a lot of the people who took part in the protests in 2018-2019, they hadn't known any other rule than that under Omar Al-Bashir. And so, it did require a lot, sort of a shift in mindset to imagine a country, to imagine Sudan without Omar Al-Bashir, without his organization, without his party, without their movement, and without the militarization that they brought to the country and to its governance. That shift, I think, is now very difficult to move away from. It's very difficult to go back to a state of mind where you accept that military rule is the norm and military rule will be the state of Sudan, state of governance in Sudan going forward. And that's one thing that the generals have miscalculated, that there is no going back. The protest movement has reiterated this time and time again, that there is no going back to that time of Islamo military rule. And since the coup last year, the 25th of October, the General Burhan, the head of the Sovereign Council, has brought in a lot of Islamists, has brought them back actually, the ones that were removed after the fall of Bashir, and has tried to replicate that same state that Omar Al-Bashir presided over. And frankly, the protesters want to say today, just like in 2019, the time on that sort of governance is up and they want to move forward to a different political dispensation.
You make mention of a shift, but we know that the impact has been detrimental since the October military coup, which plunged the country, of course, into political turmoil and aggravated its economic woes. I mean, that is also something that speaks to the day-to-day lives of the people.
Yes, absolutely. But people have been very clear that they understand the links between the economic degradation and the continued presence of the military in government. The military is a rapacious entity that really has dominated the economic field. A lot of Sudan's economy, roughly about 80%, is actually in the informal economy, and both the informal and informal economy are dominated by the military and other security actors. Therefore, Sudan's economic woes in general are directly tied to the work of the generals. On top of that, the October coup of last year sectors a high level of the political sphere into what's going on in other parts, including the social and economic sphere. And so it's very difficult to disabuse people of that link.
Absolutely. We're going to have to leave it there, and thank you for your time. Kholood Khair, managing partner of Inside Strategy Partners.